Test 1 2, testing 1 2. Test 1 2, testing 1 2. Hey, good afternoon, good evening. It's 6:16 in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. My name's JJCouey, coming to you live for the second time today to finish up the show. I promised you I'd come back after basketball, and I am back after basketball. I just wanted to make sure that everybody understands that if you're interested in learning how to do this, if you want to learn how it's done, if you just want to verify that it's actually done by one guy in one place with some Craigslist stuff, you're welcome to sit over there on that couch. You're welcome to come and visit the house, and I'll tell you everything that I'm doing and show you how it's done so that you too can stream from the back of your garage. Not everybody's going to be lucky enough to have a wood shop in the back of their garage, but my family sacrificed a couple bedrooms in order to rent this house so that I would have this workspace that I could make noise in and do all of my nonsense. And so that's where we are. I'm very excited to be here. Thank you very much for joining me. It's going to be a great show. I'm really looking forward to sharing what I have with you, for you. Yeah, anyway, I don't know. We'll see you again soon, I guess. We'll see you soon.
Don't take Tylenol. Don't take it. With Tylenol, don't take it. Don't take it. Don't use Tylenol. Don't take Tylenol. Don't take Tylenol. Fight like hell not to take it. I think you shouldn't take it. Don't take Tylenol. The baby gets a shot. They say, here, take a cup of Tylenol. I've heard that for years. Take Tylenol. Don't take Tylenol. Don't have your baby take Tylenol. Don't give Tylenol to the baby. Don't give Tylenol to the baby. Don't give your baby Tylenol. Don't take Tylenol. Don't take Tylenol. Don't take Tylenol. Don't take it. Don't take it. So that's it. There's nothing much to say. Don't take Tylenol. Just don't take it. And I just say it again. Don't take Tylenol. Don't take it.
Wednesday, stay in bed. On Thursday, watch
welcome to the show again, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the backyard. Welcome to the garage. It's a little bit of both right now with the back door open, the nice sun. We had a few days of pretty hard rain. I'm trying to do a little bit of an impression of the TWIV show where they tell everybody about their weather. Welcome to the show. Thank you again for joining me this evening. It's Friday. I'm very excited about that. I hope the cure isn't something that annoys. It's a long time ago since I dated a girl in college who was absolutely obsessed with the cure. And I never really understood it, and now for some reason I actually enjoy that music. And it's strange because at the time I did not enjoy the Cure, and I didn't understand him, and also because of I still don't understand him. I mean, he's a guy who dressed all crazy and whatever, but anyway, I don't know much about it. I just know that at the time during college I thought that it wasn't that great of music and it was kind of goofy, and now in the nostalgia of it all, I like it a lot. So anyway, we're still seeking the truth here. We're still, busy, lost in the pandemic and trying to figure out exactly what stories they told us and who told us the stories, because Americans were murdered in order to pull this off. Americans were murdered in order to create the momentum necessary to get us to where we are right now. I know it sounds pretty harsh, but it's actually the truth. If you haven't heard it before, it's absolutely true. Over the last 6 years, nearly 1 million Americans were murdered. I think that's a rough calculation. It's not too bad. It's not. And it's also not. No, it's not this either. It's really not. It is a elaborate mythology that's based on this idea that evolution because DNA, which is the foundation of Bad Biology 101. It's called the central dogma. And this argument that we are very insignificant in the grand scheme of evolutionary time because our species has been around for so long and is the culmination, the pinnacle product of a process that started with a lightning bolt and a mud puddle, this has to be unlearned. There's no possible way to explain our existence by evolution because DNA. Yet that is what we are teaching our children. That is what we inherited. That is what I learned from academia. And that assumption is horribly wrong. And it is an assumption that also can be a set of blinders, which makes you unable to see the irreducible complexity of life, the pattern integrity with a trajectory across time. It all becomes invisible, hidden behind this rubric of nonsense, that everything is DNA. We just don't understand it all yet. But the assumption is that when we do, it'll all be about the 100 genes that are responsible for autism or something like that. This has to be broken now before it is passed on as an assumption to our children. And so we need to come together with our kids with a collective understanding of what happened during the pandemic and why it happened. The motivation stemming all the way back to the Human Genome Project and before. And the idea that this fake health freedom movement is just a small gear in a much larger machine. And that's why Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos and Peter Thiel and Alex Karp and Mark Zuckerberg and Bobby Kennedy and Donnie Trump are so ridiculous. Because we are in the midst of a decades-long theater that has ramped up exponentially during the pandemic because of our acquiescence to social media, but that too was by design. And so nobody says it more succinctly than we do, and that's not a bragging point anymore. That should be a very big red flag for you about all of these other people, because we aren't trying to trademark these ideas. We haven't ever tried to trademark these ideas. We just try to get people to say them correctly. And after a little struggle there in 2023, the vast majority of these people have just vanished and are still unable to make progress to differentiate between various strategies for immunization and realize that intramuscular injection might be the dumbest of all, completely derived from a time in history when we knew jack shit about immunity, the 1800s. Transfection of healthy humans was a crime in 2020, and there was a whole crew of people out there on social media and on mainstream media scripted to make sure that we would never come to that realization, and especially in academia, where there were plenty of experts that should have known better. RNA cannot pandemic. Anybody that's taken an oral exam for their PhD was probably asked about the central dogma and asked to explain how genes work and result in proteins and stuff. And so all of those people, this should ring true. RNA cannot pandemic should be like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And yet it is still in the midst. It is still in the process of pandemicking, still in the process of going endemic now, according to all of our experts on any side. And autism, being a meaningless word by design, spans the entire spectrum of academia from neuroscience to psychology, and is also edified almost exclusively by this idea that everybody agrees on, that it's a complex interaction between a whole bouquet of genes and environmental exposures. Coincidentally, all of these same health freedom organizations that are probably against the transitioning of children are unable to reach the point where they realize a very simple semantic game has been played with us, that a transitioning man is now called a trans woman, and that's just stupid. In fact, I bet if we could get into a time machine and go back to the early or late 80s, 1980s, I bet you'd find that drag queens were also called trans men. And then somewhere they flipped it. And it's just so stupid, and it can only be so stupid as to be by design. The fact that none of the people that are in front of us in social media or on mainstream media have ever come to this conclusion. No one in academia, no one in the discussion of this topic has ever come to the realization that, we just have to call a transitioning man and stop calling them a trans woman. And then this whole problem of the definition of a woman would disappear. Poof. Just like the whole discussion about whether vaccines cause autism would disappear if we would define it correctly. Just like the problem of pandemics would go away if we would just define them correctly. Just like the problem of objecting to I don't know what would go away if we defined them correctly. And so here we are back again on the Star Trek Enterprise, trying to figure it out, fighting against the podcast model of governance. And so these are not real people. They've been put in place for a long, long time.
Tonight, MERS, SARS, bird flu, mutating superbugs.
And at first it seems funny to go back to 2013 and realize that
rule the planet? No, they rule the planet.
Their attack is
there was a
always
Robert
vicious.
Malone,
The majority of the exposed people do.
a Robert
It
Malone
could lead to
character
a viral Armageddon, a biopocalypse.
You've got the lab.
right
you've got
there.
the scientists necessary. Effectively, you could come up with a zombie-type virus.
Whoa. And it could be your next door neighbor. who
And in
starts
2013,
all
this is
the
happening in preparation for an anticipated rise in all-cause
Once the
mortality.
bioapocalypse strikes, we may not know what hit us. What the hell is that? Until it's
Joe Rogan is the person that helped them discover what a podcast could do, what a scripted conversation can do. And this episode of this sci-fi show actually shows very well how they were discovering how a conversation can convince people, just sitting across the table from each other and discussing our recent experiences. I sent you one place, you sent me to another. And that's magic that they discovered in 2013. Now that all by itself might be okay, but this is an anticipated rise in all-cause mortality that they've known since I was in high school, which means putting Joe Rogan there with the pandemic narrative, with a couple characters that look like Robert Malone, the DOD and DITRA advisor that's behind Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and the fraudulent organization Children's Health Defense. They've known this is coming. That's why they put these organizations in place. That's why they put these people in place, so that the narrative can be controlled. We can all go back to 2015 and see that Rand Paul, Mary Holland, and Paul Offit were already opposite one another about measles and about vaccination and about MMR and about autism back in 2015. So it is not possible that after 10 years, none of these extraordinary people have made any progress either in describing the problem nor in rationalizing their correctness in it relative to their antagonists. He can look as angry as he wants to. It doesn't change the fact that he has failed to make progress, just like Rand Paul has failed to make progress, like Mary Holland has failed to make progress, like the hosts of Democracy Now! Have failed to make progress for more than 12 years. And so the story keeps going, right? Because RFK is in this story too. The measles is in this story too, and it's planned this way. Again, a military exercise is on a completely different time horizon. It becomes invisible to people who are thinking on social media timescales. But you can see it if you know what to look for. ICANN was established on April Fool's Day 2016, and 2 weeks later, as a result of the Vax movie being pulled from the Tribeca Film Festival, pulled like Jimmy Kimmel was pulled from ABC News a couple days ago, so that a certain type of person would seek out that movie. A certain type of person would seek out that movie and show up at the movie theater and see it. And in the meantime, these people needed 2 days on the Today Show to correct the little mistake that they made. Apparently he's got an autistic son. Now, this alone would be okay, except in 2018, we also have Children's Health Defense being established by Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Mary Holland and Brian Hooker, all of whom were in this movie, all of whom were stepping in front of Brandy Vaughn and Tony Bark at the time, both of whom could say ingestion versus injection, and none of these people say that. Now we fast forward to 2025, and here is Jimmy Kimmel with Robert De Niro again, essentially playing the same role, a part in this conversation about vaccines and autism. This time, not such a great role, maybe making up for what he did in 2016. And so these are not real people. They are on a long-term script. They are old friends from the Man Show. It's gross. And so this Murder and Lies is really a podcast kind of thing. America has been fooled by a decades-long theater, a transition to podcasting. And you can see the transition to podcasting happening across the internet as people go from CNN to their own show, from CNN to Rumble. It happened all through the pandemic. All these people knew it was going to happen, and you can call them savvy or you can call them scripted. Because PBS NewsHour now promotes Substack authors and Substack people as like that's the normal way to get paid. They promote X as a very impactful platform that we really need to tune into. And PBS NewsHour promotes podcasts. And so if the military-industrial complex, if the national security state decided to put actors on podcasts, what would happen? Not just scripted actors that have a military uniform or a lab coat, but scripted actors that accept updates and are willing to sign on for a need-to-know basis that start to behave and support the notion that real things are happening because they agree to stick to a limited spectrum of debate, to argue very vigorously about certain questions and ignore others.
Joe Rogan Podcast, check it out.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Train by day, Joe Rogan Podcast by night, all day.
Welcome.
Dude.
Very nice to meet you.
Yeah, good to be here, man.
So let's take, first of all, why do we love conspiracy so much? Because I fucking love them.
Dude.
I love them. I love finding out the dirty little tactics and secrets and how the government does things and what the fuck's really going on. Why is it so exciting?
I think it's something like deep down in humanity is like we love storytelling.
Yeah.
And these.
So what this is an audition. Remember that Ian Carroll had been on TikTok for a very long time with his mustache talking shit, and very popular and very viral on X for the entire pandemic. And he's a big Epstein dude and whatever, but he was only on Joe Rogan in March of 2025.
These days, conspiracy theories are like, I mean, 10 years ago, conspiracy theories were fringe and they were problematic.
Tell me about it.
Right?
I was
like,
a conspiracy theorist way
you're
back
the
in the day when you were a fucking nut.
Dude, you're a conspiracy theorist when I was not even here yet.
I was arguing with people about the moon landing on the radio before there was any podcasts.
I mean, maybe there's some of the mystery element, but the thing is that so many of them are, it's a knowledge. It's a thirst for knowledge because some of them are total bullshit. But some of them are clearly, there's something there.
Clearly.
Right?
Yeah.
And realistically, if you had like the journalists of integrity from 1960s era alive today and they hadn't been bought out and shot in the head and whatever else happened,
dude, I
they
think
would
even
be
in
conspiracy
the 60s
theorists.
they were compromised.
Well, they were getting bought out.
The big one is Woodward with the Watergate story.
Oh, yeah.
Did you see Bill Murray when I had Bill Murray in here the other
I haven't
day?
watched it yet, no.
Bob Woodward wrote Wired, which is about John Belushi. Bill Murray read 5 pages of it, and he said, holy shit, they framed Nixon. He said the Bob Woodward story about Belushi was so full of shit. It was so exaggerated and fake and just filled with nonsense. He's like,
so they're already to accept a completely different narrative about John Belushi and the idea that somebody wrote a completely ridiculous narrative about him. They're totally willing to accept that. Uh-oh. We may have a problem.
John Belushi was a lightweight. He goes, John Belushi would drink 3 beers and he'd be drunk. He goes, he was probably the first speedball he ever took and he died from it. Like this whole thing about him being this raving, drug-fueled maniac was totally fabricated.
It's a good example of how the mainstream narrative had Nixon as a crook.
Yeah.
Joe Rogan Podcast, check it out.
The Joe Rogan Experience.
Train by day, Joe Rogan Podcast by night, all day.
Sorry about that. I'll just let it play.
Dude,
very nice to meet you.
Yeah, good to be here, man.
So let's take, first of all, why do we love conspiracy so much? Because I fucking love them.
Dude.
I love them. I love finding out the dirty little tactics and secrets and how the government does things and what the fuck's really going on.
One thing I noticed just now is that Ian is a lot skinnier in March of 2025 than he is now. So I guess at some point, if they picked him up onto the team, they had to, get him on a little testosterone and get him lifting weights.
Going on. Why is it so exciting?
I think it's something like deep down in humanity is like we love storytelling.
Yeah.
And these days conspiracy theories are like I mean 10 years ago conspiracy theories were fringe and they were problematic.
Tell me about it.
Right?
I was a conspiracy theorist way back in the day when you were a fucking nut.
Dude, you're a conspiracy theorist when I was not even here yet.
I was arguing with people about the moon landing on the radio before there was any podcasts.
I mean, maybe there's some of the mystery element, but the thing is that so many of them are, it's a knowledge. It's a thirst for knowledge because some of them are total bullshit. But some of them are clearly, there's something there.
Clearly.
Right?
Yeah.
And realistically, if you had like the journalists of integrity from 1960s era alive today and they hadn't been bought out and shot in the head and whatever else happened,
dude, I
they
think
would
even
be
in the
conspiracy
60s
theorists.
they were compromised.
Well, they were getting bought out.
The big one is Woodward with the Watergate story.
Oh, yeah.
Did you see Bill Murray when I had Bill Murray in here the other day?
I haven't watched it yet, no.
Bob Woodward wrote Wired, which is about John Belushi. Bill Murray read 5 pages of it, and he said, holy shit, they framed Nixon. He said the Bob Woodward story about Belushi was so full of shit. It was so exaggerated and fake and just filled with nonsense. He's like, John Belushi was a lightweight. He goes, John Belushi would drink 3 beers and he'd be drunk. He goes, he was probably the first speedball he ever took and he died from it. Like this whole thing about him being this raving, drug-fueled maniac was totally fabricated.
It's a good example of how the mainstream narrative had Nixon as a crook.
Yeah.
And he's just one of many examples, right? And when you really start to look into it, you realize, I mean, probably not the greatest guy, But what was the real story there? What were they framing? Why are they trying to get him out?
Yeah, no, this is not a defense of Nixon.
Yeah,
Nixon was not a great guy. But Tucker thinks that Nixon knew too much about the JFK assassination and wanted to talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
And he started saying, I know who killed JFK.
Yeah.
And he started yapping, and they were like, let's get this motherfucker out of here. Yeah. And also, one of the terms that he had agreed to run for president was Gerald Ford, who was on the fucking Warren Commission.
Bingo.
Gerald Ford as his VP.
Yep.
So Gerald Ford becomes the first ever non-elected president. He slips in. He becomes president for kind of a bullshit term.
Yep. And does a whole bunch of war party things and just a whole bunch of bullshit.
And we decide that Nixon was the real problem with the country.
I mean, how often is it that they're allowing someone that they aren't sure about to get to president, and they're sticking them with a VP that is their guy, right?
Oh, yeah, Dick Cheney.
LBJ with JFK.
Dick Cheney. Everybody,
Mike
was the
Pence,
hidden secret that, Pence was
I don't know what the hell to think about Mike Pence.
Pence is like a
no
preacher.
idea.
I think he was good to get the just
super
religious people
rhino, super
weird guy.
Yeah.
Odd
But I mean,
guy.
Trump is a weird guy too. Like, who knows what's going on with Trump right now?
He's an animal.
Yeah.
He's the most fun ever.
I love Trump conspiracy theories because people get so riled up and it's so partisan and political, but within it, there's all this like juicy like meat for thinking about. It's like not even conspiracy theories. It's just like his history.
Right.
And especially with the Epstein stuff now and his history with Epstein, it just gets me so interested in you'll never know the real story.
Here's the thing about theories and stuff. There's so many things that are so weird that you would think, wait a minute, this can't be real. This is fake.
Yep.
And then it's connected to real life events in some sort of a way that you would think there's a conspiracy. Like, here's one of my favorites is Little Baron Trump's.
Yeah, dude, I just got the book. It just came in the mail.
Insane.
Have you read it?
No.
Dude, I'm gonna read it. I just got it.
I should buy it. I should buy the book before it gets bought out.
I got it in a 3-part series that.
So that was just an advertisement for Baron Trump's book. That wasn't anything else but an advertisement that they kind of improvised through. Joe Rogan cued it off. He said he just got it. I haven't read it. I'm totally going to read it. That's what you're seeing here. They're practicing. They're testing how well he can bounce things off. Now, the thing to realize about improv, if you've never done any theater or you've never worked at a theater-based high school like I have and known people in theater and whatever, you might not understand the basic rule, the number one of improv. But the basic rule number one of improv is to say yes, not no. And so you can hear it when they're doing it because they will agree with each other before they know for sure what they're agreeing about, again, because they're following the rule of improv that you always agree. You don't disagree, because that saying no can often end it unless the other actor is very good.
As the Baron Trump one, and then The Last President, and there's one other one.
And then how about the Werner von Braun one about a guy named Elon that takes us to Mars? Werner von Braun, the fucking Nazi who ran, Operation.
The one thing that I like about Werner von Braun is that for whatever reason, I remember very distinctly being told by John Bodwin that he has a photograph of his dad and Werner von Braun. I could be completely Looney Tunes, but I sure remember him bragging about that more than once, actually.
Paperclip and became the head of NASA.
Super occultist kind of stuff in there.
Writes a novel about a guy named Elon that takes us to Mars. And even Elon saw that, and he's like, is this real? Like you would think. There's no way.
Simultaneous to us kind of getting like some version of UAP disclosure that implies time travel.
Yeah.
Which is like, Lord knows what that is.
Right.
But it's just so fun to speculate because it's like, how would we know?
Yeah, how would we know? And the whole UAP thing, boy.
He's listed, Ian Carroll is listed as a researcher and entrepreneur in the description of this podcast. I do have a reason for playing this. We're not going to listen to this segment much longer.
You want to find a cauldron of bullshit.
Yeah.
That's the cauldron. Do you know who's got the best take on it? Is Jacques Vallée. I'm in the
I've
middle
not
of
seen a lot of his stuff.
my third book of his right now, and it's I'll tell you what it's called.
Yeah, I should read some.
He's the best.
Why do you say
how
he's the
bright
best? Like,
is
what's your
his
qualifier
phone?
there?
Holy
this,
crap!
This one, Confrontation.
Look at how bright
is
his
one
phone
of a
is.
three-part series of human interactions that have been documented with some sort of an invader from some other dimension or planet or whatever the fuck it is. He is the most irrational. He's the most analytical. He's the least likely to buy into horseshit, but not dismissive.
That's
of
like the
strange
critical balance, right?
Yes. Well, he's the guy that they modeled the French scientist in Close Encounters of the Third Kind after. So he's been in this game since the 60s investigating these things.
And time in the game counts for a ton. It counts for much. And that's my greatest weakness in a lot of ways, among several, is that I'm just really new to the game. And so I'm constantly like catching up on shit, and as stuff breaks.
Right.
Like Pam Bondi, for example, I have no history on who Pam Bondi is because I wasn't paying attention when Pam Bondi was in Florida. And so I'm having to like play catch up on what was going on.
Right.
And the people that have been here for forever, like
That's not playing catch up. Playing catch up is what went on during the Clinton administration. Playing catch up is what happened during the 9/11. Playing catch up is what happened before 9/11. That's all history that this dipshit doesn't know anything about either. Not paying attention to when Pam Bondi was in Florida. He wasn't doing anything until he got recruited. That's the point. He's an actor on a script.
like the Alex Joneses of this world, the Jacques Valleys, the people that like watch things break live, you just get a different level of
the Alex Jones of this world. Come
context.
on.
And then you get like the David Ikes that are like, it's fucking reptiles, dude. They're all reptiles. David, have you seen David Icke coming after me on Twitter recently?
He came after me
dude,
too.
It's so
because
good. I love him.
Make fun of the reptile thing, and it's like, why won't you have me on?
I genuinely really appreciate it. It's like a good time.
But
and it's like maybe there are
I think
reptiles. I don't know, man.
He went too far in a time where there was no internet.
Yeah.
You know, he went too far.
It's you get too certain of yourself, right? You think you have the answers, and you just keep going.
A little bit of a grift.
Yeah.
With some of these folks. I'm not saying necessarily him, but it's.
But he's not grifting when he takes $250 million contracts for this work. He's not grifting. He's not grifting when he scripts in some little improv nod to Donald Trump's son's book. He's not grifting at all. No, none of these people are grifting. By them saying that Ike is a little bit of a grifter, it almost makes these guys seem like normal.
It's a little bit of a grift.
Well, it's an easy temptation to fall into, especially with the internet. Like every single day, people in my position, I mean, people in your position too. Like we have
people in Joe Rogan's position. Who's in Joe Rogan's position? Who's in his position getting falsely promoted by social media because they have a military operation? What are they talking about other than trying to create an illusion? They are creating an illusion. They are some of the worst actors on the internet.
The ability to just like, I'm going to get views and money if I drop deep down this grift. But a lot of them are not. Like a lot of them, when you look into them, you realize, oh, there's like literally nothing there.
There's a bunch of stuff that's clickbait horseshit for sure.
Or at least there's probably nothing there. Right?
Yeah. I've been trying to wrap my mind around the idea of quantum computing. It's exciting, but complex and difficult to understand. What I do know is that quantum computers can process exponentially more data than the ones you and I use every day.
And so I just want you to hear after the VPN, ExpressVPN announcement or whatever this is, what they say, and then we'll go on to the next clip.
Currently considered secure. That's why ExpressVPN upgraded their encryption to use MLKEM, the strongest available protection from post-quantum threats. With ExpressVPN, all your online activity is rerouted through secure, encrypted servers, even though all your data is still being handled by your internet provider or whoever the provider is for the random public Wi-Fi network you're on. None of these third parties will be able to read your data or hijack your connection for proofing your. That's why ExpressVPN want to get the highest the banner or extra months for watching on you clicking the link.
You know the story that
in the description.
The one that I just recently kind of was reminded of is, the story that Disney sent kids to Epstein Island?
Yeah,
that's like
I
a
did hear
perfect,
that, but it's not.
Such a money conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
It's not true.
That's not true.
It's when you look it up, you realize that I mean, a lot of the information's kind of gone. It's hard to even tell if it's legitimate websites and information, which is already a red flag. But the ones that are still up, they just sent them into like the ocean. They were going on cruises that happened to be in the vicinity of the island. That's totally different.
Which is in a very popular vacation destination.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so it becomes this and that's kind of I think that's the fun part of the game.
We thought about buying the island.
Dude.
When the island was for sale, we talked about it for a second. We're like, let's put some of that Spotify money to use. That would be funny.
I think they would.
Let's put some of that Spotify money to use. Before the pandemic, he signed a $200 million contract. In 2024, he signed a new contract for $250 million. So I don't know how much money he's got, but I think it's probably a metric shit ton. And he doesn't need it. But he's not a grifter. He's actually just the guy that gets people to pay for their Spotify, and he's the guy who sells a lot of, he's a great advertiser. That's why he's so rich. And he's such a great conversationalist that Spotify can pay him almost $500 million. That makes total sense. He's not a liar. Come on. He just works a lot harder than you.
That stopped you, dude. I think someone would have stopped you.
100%. Me?
Yeah.
I can't shut the fuck up.
There's shit underneath that island.
No doubt.
Sure.
There's got to be something on that island that's incriminating. And
temple.
Also, what's in the walls? What's in the walls of the buildings? Like, I would get into the wiring. I'd bring in pros.
Oh, yeah.
I'd be like, tell me
what's under the dirt.
I'd scan the fucking floors.
LiDAR.
Yeah.
It's probably all buildings with unfinished drywall. That's how frickin' stupid this is.
Ocean floor.
Come on, you can do it. Darn it. Okay, I'll figure out where we are, though. Come on, sweetheart. You can do it. Oh.
Weird thing.
Yeah, I should read some.
He's the best.
He kind of was reminded of is the story that Disney sent kids.
Oh, maybe
to
that's
Epstein
where
Island.
I ended it. Sorry.
Yeah,
that's like
I did hear that.
Perfect,
but it's not.
Such a money conspiracy theory.
Yeah.
It's not true.
That's not true.
It's
on that island that's incriminating.
that
and
temple.
Also, what's
Oh yeah, that's where I ended it. Okay, so here we go.
weird
The second
things
clip.
happen when you shoot things, but some things are super consistent. And one thing that's super consistent is when you hit something, it goes in the direction that you hit it, right? So back and to the left. Hicks used to talk about that all the time.
Yeah.
Back and to the left.
Yeah.
When making fun of the fact that the Zapruder film clearly showed that it wasn't a shot from the back. But the head goes spray, too. It goes spray like this back and to the left. Can we see it? Let's see it real quick.
Yeah, something I love about the JFK story is that there are so many deep experts that have really done the dig, and they don't all come to the same conclusions.
Well, here's the thing about Lifton's book. He also documents how many witnesses were murdered. And it's astounding.
That's the
All
part
these
that often
witnesses,
gets left off, too.
Their cars got parked on railroad tracks, and they died of heart attacks when they were 30, and they got fucking shot in a robbery, and they committed suicide. They gassed. They fell asleep in their car.
Man, Hillary Clinton sure got started early.
Yeah. Back into the left. Watch this. Watch this. The explosion.
Yeah, because he's already hitting the neck. You're totally right. It's like a cloud in the front, right?
I mean, it could be that.
Are these two clowns really watching footage that Jamie has pulled up from the internet and going, oh, wow, yeah, you're right. Wow. Crazy. Are they really working on their fine-tuning of their understanding of this historical event now live? Because that's absolutely absurd.
The top of his head exploded right there, and the force drives him back. It also could, there's another possibility, and the possibility is spontaneous nerve reaction of your body shutting down, which could cause you to go back into the left, even if you get shot in the front.
Yeah.
Back into the down, which could cause shutting down. Is spontaneous nerve reaction of your body shutting down. Yeah. Weird things happen when you shoot things. Back into the left, and they committed suicide into the
in the front, right?
I mean, it could be that the top of his head exploded right there and the force drives him back. It also could, there's another possibility, and the possibility is, and they got fucking shot in a Lifton's book. He also documents
That's the
all
part
these
that
road track, fucking their car.
Man, Hillary Clinton sure got started early.
Yeah.
Why am I got my mouth open? Because that's what Charlie Kirk did when he was shot. He went back into the left with some hands up like this. And Joe Rogan in March of 2025 is going to talk about that in reference to JFK with this jackass. And really? Oh my gosh. I'm a little annoyed here.
Watch this. Watch this, the explosion.
Yeah, because he's already hitting the neck. You're totally right. It's like a cloud in the front, right?
I mean, it could be that the top of his head exploded right there and the force drives him back. It also could, there's another possibility, and the possibility is spontaneous nerve reaction of your body shutting down, which could cause you to go back into the left even if you get shot in the front.
Yeah.
But the thing is, the spray, or if you get shot in the back, rather, the spray looks like it's going forward. Like, we'll watch when he gets hit. See that?
Yep. It's just weird.
But that could...
Now, if we fast forward to the shooting of Charlie Kirk, it turns out that Ian Carroll has decided to do some analysis of his own in his highly produced, very popular podcast. So I thought I'd watch a little bit of that quick and see if anything interesting happens there.
A handgun round. Time to cross a 100-foot field of view would be 83.3 milliseconds. So,
Patriot,
5 frames
look at this fake
through which the bullet would pass. The bullet would appear.
He's calculating whether or not they could find the bullet in any of these films, and deciding, what frame rate you need to catch what size or what speed of bullet, which is already retarded. And then he's going to make an admission, which means that he's nothing but Team Robert Malone.
That it's against a dark background with enough light bouncing off of it that you can see the bullet against its background. And in this case, both frames that we have the bullet appearing in, it's against Charlie's black pants in the latter frame, and in the frame before it impacts, it's against a man with a black shirt. We would expect it in 3 to 5 consecutive frames, and we see it in like 1 frame behind him, 1 frame on impact, maybe a frame inside of his neck and a frame coming down past his knee. Right? Like, that kind of lines up.
He's saying that he was shot from behind and that we have footage of the bullets, which is just so retarded. I can't.
So, as a general rule of thumb, anytime that someone gets shot in public in America and it's a big conspiracy and it seems like we're being lied to, it's probably worth following along with John Cullen. He broke a whole bunch of stuff wide open about the Las Vegas shooting back in 2016. And he certainly is getting involved in this. John can be a bit of a pain. He can be a bit of an ass online.
He said John Cullen's name.
He inside of his neck and a frame coming down past his knee. Right? Like, that kind of lines up.
So, as a general rule of thumb, anytime that someone gets shot in public in America and it's a big conspiracy and it seems like we're being lied to, it's probably worth following along with John Cullen. He broke a whole bunch of the stuff wide open about the Las Vegas shooting back.
What this means is that Robert Malone and Meryl Nass and Mary Holland and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Steve Bannon and Ryan Cole and Peter McCullough and Pierre Corey and George Webb and Kevin McCairn and Kevin McKernan and Claire Craig and Nick Hudson and Jessica Hockett and Jessica Rose and all of these people, all the way down to John Goodman and frickin' Paul Cottrell, are all one great big shit cast working for the National Security State of America. That's my best estimation. Probably the State Department. or, you know, affiliated organizations, funded organizations, who knows, maybe even USAID paid for some of them. The fact that he is promoting John Cullen is an admission that he's on the same team as George Webb, as Jane Ruby, as the Bregans, as CHD and ICANN, and that fraud Polly Tommy and that fraud Andrew Wakefield. It's all one malevolent shit show, and he was just recruited a little later. That's all. It's all one malevolent shit show. These people are all part of the same scam. All of them, all these people around the world down here on the bottom, absolute monsters. The next row, scripted monsters. The next row, shameless actors. And the row after that, people who are in the club and for whom money doesn't really matter anymore. No one else has gotten this far, ladies and gentlemen. No one else has gotten this far. Just make sure you realize that.
way you do it. You play the guitar on the MTV. That ain't working, that's the way you do it. Money for nothing and your chicks for free. Now that ain't working, that's the way you do it. Let me tell you, damn guys ain't dumb. Maybe get a blister on your little finger. Maybe get a blister on your thumb. We got to install microwave ovens, custom kitchen delivery. guitar. I should have learned to play them drums. Look at that mama, she got it sticking in the cameraman. We could have some. And he's up there. What's that? Hawaiian noises. He's banging on the bongos like a chimpanzee. Oh, that ain't working. That's the way you do it. Get your money for nothing. Get your chicks for free. We got to install a microwave oven, custom kitchen deliveries. We got to move these refrigerators. We got to move these color TVs. Listen here, now, that ain't working. That's the way you do it. You play the guitar on the MTV. That ain't working. That's the way you do it. Money for nothing and your chicks for free. Money for nothing. Chicks for free. Money for nothing. And your chicks for free. Ooh, that money for nothing. Chicks for free. Money for nothing. Chicks for free. All that money for nothing. Chicks for free. Money for nothing. Chicks for free. Look at that. Easy money, easy chicks for free. Easy money for nothing. Chicks for free. That ain't working.
It is imperative that we unlearn Biology 101. It's imperative that we understand the trap that we are in. Ladies and gentlemen, if you fell for this, if you fell for the anti-vax movement, the health freedom movement, any of these people like Brian Hooker, Mary Holland, Meryl Nass, or Robert F. Kennedy Jr., or Del Bigtree, or Polly Tommy, or Andrew Wakefield, at any point in time, if you fell for these people during the pandemic, you're not alone. It's not your fault. They are part of a military operation. But the trap is closing very, very quickly. I want you to feel how quickly it's closing with this next video. It's not good.
So, first of all, by a show of hands, how many of you in the audience think that there is a link between vaccines and autism? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Wow. About 23 of you. Wow, interesting. And how many of you don't believe there is a link? Hands up. About 18. So that's amazing. I'm glad that we have this kind of mix in the audience here tonight. This is what Pangburn's all about, getting us all together to have good faith, helpful conversations.
Now, I don't know if they chose Dave because of the way he looks and because he's a short, pudgy, ugly guy with a big nose and black hair, he's an asshole. And he's a scripted asshole. That's the problem. He's a dick on purpose. He's scripted to be kind of this extremely arrogant know-it-all, and he's probably extremely good at memorizing things so that he can, for example, maybe sit down and memorize 40 pages of facts and then for the next hour and a half be a dick recalling them. But that skill is still just acting. And regardless of whether he applies his acting memorization skills to chemistry or to biology or to the facts of the central dogma or to the vaccine schedule and the CDC lines on it, it doesn't make him smart. It makes him very good at memorizing things. And of course, those are the people that do very well in academic biology, because so much of it is trying to catch up and understand what was already said and argued about and who did that, which is essentially remembering things. And the more you can remember, the more names you can remember, the more powerful you feel in a conversation, even though the concepts might be vapid, even though your understanding of the concepts might be vapid. Somebody with an extreme memory can make it feel as though they really know what they're talking about. Another example is somebody like Peter McCullough, who spends a great deal of time talking about papers, and the way that he bamboozles you is that he tells you all the authors as if that matters. But he'll refer to the paper as the McCullough and Rose paper from 2024 is not that dissimilar from the Corey McCullough paper. And so that kind of thing is an illusion. You don't need to remember anyone's names. If you can't remember that it was Max Delbruck who failed to solve all the problems of life using bacteria and bacteriophages after years of working together with the greatest minds in physics, that's okay, as long as you understand the concept that they didn't succeed. And in this case, what we are dealing with is at least one guy with a really good memory and scripted to be an absolute dickhead, and then this guy who's actually quite a bit less intelligent than Dave. But he is also really good at being that kind of teaching assistant level dickhead. And so basically we have two teaching assistants who have been teaching the same stupid basic course for a very long time. This guy was scripted to go on the internet and teach courses on chemistry and organic chemistry and basic biology already many years before the pandemic. And there's no question that he was scripted to do it. He was scripted to do it. He was scripted to do it. There's no way that this guy is just an accident.
So we've been at this for 10 years at Pangburn, producing events. We produced the 4-part Sam Harris, Jordan Peterson series in 2017. If you guys haven't seen our recent God debate.
The Jordan Sam Harris series. It's hard for me to imagine a series I would less like to see. Like, I can't even express how awful that sounds.
Between Alex O'Connor and Dinesh D'Souza. That's one of my favorite debates we've ever produced. Check that one out. Also, Dillahunty versus Jordan Peterson's a fantastic discussion. So in our 10 years of operation, I'm not sure that we've ever produced a live discussion with stakes this high. There are people literally dying and living sick due to misinformation. Now, depending on who you ask, that misinformation exists on the other side. We have both sides represented here tonight. On the quote-unquote pro-vaccine side, we have Professor Dave Explains, Dave Farina, and Debunk the Funk, Dr. Dan Wilson. On the quote-unquote anti-vaccines.
So Dan has a PhD from Carnegie Mellon in Pittsburgh, and I've done one stream with him, and at the time I wasn't prepared. At the time I wasn't ready, but I still cleaned the floor with him. But now I think Dave and Debunk the Funk would have a really hard time with me. But I'm just going to spoil it for you. they're not going to have a hard time with those two dipshits over there. The sad thing about this video is it looks like Pierre Corey is completely unaware that despite the $250,000 salary from a nonprofit and despite the book deal, he got taken by these people, and now he's about to play the role of jackass. Can you imagine if these two guys knew that he was a testifying medical witness to the George Floyd killing? Can you imagine? I mean, it's shocking right now.
We have Steve Kirsch and Dr. Pierre Corey. Like many of the labels that are grafted onto me by others, the debaters may reject these labels, but they do exist in the culture. As moderator tonight, my name's Travis Pangburn, by the way. As moderator tonight, I plan on saying as little as possible and simply allow the dialectic to flow. At Pangburn, we always hope to produce a good faith, helpful, passionate discussion, even when the stakes seem dire. I will ask you, the audience, to please not interrupt these important exchanges. Don here.
Keep in mind, what this is supposed to be is apparently our two best going up against their two mediocres. You know, everybody's good on that side. They all know the right answer. It's this side that really needs the good guy here. Who should we have had here? Maybe James Lyons Weiler? Maybe Mary Holland? How about Polly Tommy? Would she have been good? How about Andrew Wakefield? Why do we have Pierre Corey? I think we have Pierre Corey because he's actually not a military actor. I think we have Steve Kirsch there because he's not actually a military actor. These guys are like recruited by the military actors. They were recruited by the operators. And so these guys are safe to put on stage for them to get their clock cleaned by these two guys because they don't have anything. They just have the big top tent of health freedom. They just have what CHD has. They just have what Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has. And when you see how little they have, you will be shocked, right? Because this is supposed to be the vaccine debate to end all vaccine debates. And no one will use the word transfection even once.
To my right, we'll be playing timekeeper to ensure each side has equal amount of time on each topic. 6 topics have been agreed upon for tonight's discussion. The goal is to try to allow enough time for each topic. The side that doesn't get to start the topic will get the final words on that topic. The topic.
Okay, I'll go along with Vilma. I think it's very possible because I don't think he invented the optic mouse. So Steve Kirsch very well could be an operator, very similar level operator as Robert Malone, very similar level operator as Elon Musk, very similar operator level as Kevin McKernan, although admittedly probably a lot less technically savvy. He's nonetheless kind of a fake person in a fake position with a fake level of some kind of authority, when in reality he's just a guy that's been given a weaponized pile of money, and then he's just working with these jackasses to grift. He's the largest private donor to the DNC before the pandemic. Yes, Steve Kirsch. Extremely professional liar.
The topics are as follows. Number 1, vaccines and autism. Is there a link? Number 2, new measles out.
Of course, that's already a losing argument, right? Because vaccine is not a specific term and autism is a myth. But they're going to debate it anyway.
Outbreak. Is misinformation to blame? Number 3, did the COVID vaccines save lives? And there's also a sub-question to the third question. RFK Jr. pulls $500 million in funding for vaccine development. Is this good for the USA? Number 4, are kids better off being fully vaccinated according to the CDC vaccination schedule or fully unvaccinated? Number 5, should we eliminate liability protection for vaccine manufacturers? And number 6, is ivermectin effective against COVID-19? The speakers have provided 5 references per topic that everyone can have access to during this debate. You just need to go to paying dash.
So they were given papers. So they exchanged papers. Okay, so that's an important thing to say here, because it establishes something, right? Here are the papers that I want to use. Here are the papers they want to use. And then they supposedly prepared, right? I guarantee you that Dave prepared. I guarantee you that Dan prepared. So I sure hope Corey and Kirsch prepared.
Burn.com/references. We are going to start with quick introductions and thoughts on tonight's debate before we jump into the first topic. Let's start with Dave and Dan.
You can go first. Okay, so I cannot tell you how disheartening it is to hear so many people still falling for this vaccine's autism bullshit. It started with Andrew Wakefield in the 90s in the retracted Lancet study, and it's been a plague on mankind ever since.
Now, if we just stop here and we remind you that in the early 2000s, Polly Tommy, the hell is that? Polly Tommy was on billboards, over 90 billboards, bringing awareness to autism in the UK. Not trying to stop the vaccine schedule, but just bringing awareness to them. Her model daughter actually was doing TED Talks about how there should be more job programs for kids with autism. And so we were not fighting a vaccine schedule. We weren't exposing a vaccine schedule. Polly Tommy was in a newspaper at some point saying that her son was cured by secretin injections in 2005, 3? I don't know when it happened, but all of that predates her work with Mary Holland and Brian Hooker from 2015 on in America. You know, when they started establishing ICANN and CHD and stepping in front of Brandy Vaughn, who had all kinds of billboards around the United States and was even getting coverage on Dateline in Australia about it. And that was in 2018. And so, yes, this has been a very long con. It has been recycled and agents put in place with a story, and now they have ranches in Austin. And so he's 100% right about this.
No matter how many studies are done, no matter how many hundreds of thousands or millions of children that are studied, where absolutely zero correlation is found, anti-vaxxers continue to push this myth, which is absolutely insane and utterly unfounded. Not only is there zero data to support this link and a mountain of data disproving the link, it also just completely betrays any understanding of what autism even is. Autism is an inborn, genetic-based neurological condition. You can't catch autism. You can't.
And so what he's saying is that vaccine injury can't cause autism by definition if autism is a genetic disorder. And he's again not wrong if you give him that definition. So here we are juggling like 3 balls, right? Because you're juggling whose definition are we using for autism? Is it their definition? Or are we going to go to profound autism and not profound autism, or other stupid nomenclature tricks that just simply walk around the elephant in the room, which is autism is a stupid word by design. And he accepts it, just argues about it in the way that those people don't want to argue about it. And it's amazing, right? Because Dr. Pierre Corey's not going to be able to explain the nuance here. And certainly the egghead fake Steve Kirsch is not going to be able to explain it.
Get autism. You are born autistic, and then symptoms show up. And
he has an autistic son, just so you know. So one of the reasons why I'm pretty sure he was recruited for this very operation and why he worked so damn hard over the last decade and a half to be a part of this operation is because his son has autism, and he wants desperately to believe that he had nothing to do with it.
People say, oh my God, it's the vaccine, and it's just complete.
Except the fact, of course, that he passed on the genes to his son.
Horseshit. There's essentially nothing to discuss here. We're going to discuss it anyway, apparently, but that's how it is. Yep.
All right, thanks, Dave. Go ahead, Dan. Yeah, that's what we're doing right now. Well, I think he just
Yep, I'll echo that. And just a general comment about this debate. I think that the evidence is very clear for what the right answers are for each of these topics. And to be on stage with two people who have profited so much and gained so much from saying the complete opposite of what the facts
It's funny when people get money from lying, isn't it?
Is frankly just a little bit frustrating. But we are here to have a debate, and we are going to educate these two people who are anti-vaccine for your all entertainment. And I think you all should enjoy.
That's Dan Wilson, Debunk the Funk, who I streamed with in 2021, I think.
Thanks, Dan. All right. Pierre, how about you?
Yeah.
He went on to have a new YouTube channel that was sponsored by some, publicity organization in Canada, like some, public health messaging organization. He's a shithead.
I think we already have
nice and hot on the mic, Pierre.
I think we already have the answers. So,
and he's actually a guy who worked for, went from academia to immediately work for a testing company.
Well, anyway, the opening statement for me is I'll just say that, my background, I have 3 daughters, all of them fully vaccinated according to the CDC schedule. I'm a physician that went pretty high in academic medicine. I was the chief of the critical care service and the director of the main ICU at one of the largest academic medical centers in the country. I also published over 50 papers, maybe 60, and one of my textbooks is translated to 7 languages, and it's in 3rd edition.
But he's not aware that 60 liters a minute of pure oxygen during COVID might have been toxic or lead to ARDS, even though he's got a textbook about critical care.
Stop lying!
I mean, this man is a monster. He is a monster on a script.
I was known as a leader in several fields, one of which was critical care ultrasonography. Another one was therapeutic hypothermia after cardiac arrest. In fact, I was one of the leaders who launched the program here called Project Hypothermia. My protocol, my hospital was the first one in all of New York City to cool patients. And by the time I was done, every hospital had a protocol. So I have a long history in medicine. So how did I get to this purported anti-vax position? Well, let's be clear on what an anti-vaxxer is, right? And also let's be clear on what disinformation and misinformation is, because already I'm hearing things so completely inaccurate. Let's be clear. Misinformation is something said out of ignorance or error.
This almost sounds like a Robert Malone script. And it's funny, if we were go back to that Ian Carroll and Joe Rogan 2.5-hour podcast, at one point in time they're talking about Epstein, and Joe Rogan says, what if it's just a negotiation? What if it's not blackmail, but if it's just a negotiation, that they say that we have some pictures of you, and why don't you just shut up for a while? And Ian Carroll's kind of a little surprised because he's like, I think that's just blackmail. No. But what if it's not blackmail and if it's just negotiation? And then Ian has to say, I don't think there's any difference between those two things you just described. It is two ridiculous jackasses pretending to have a conversation that is ridiculous because it's scripted but improvised. And it's part of a national security script. This guy is trapped in a national security script. And because he's trapped in a national security script, he's going to get his clock cleaned by the people who have the opposite part of his script. He can't get off stage. He can't walk away. He can't change his script to say something, I don't know, that Jonathan Couey told him.
Disinformation is something said with the intent to mislead. If anti-vaxxers are disinformationists, what is their incentive to mislead? Why are they so up in arms against people getting vaccinated? It's because they want to protect them. There's only 2 ways you get to be a purported anti-vaxxer. One is through the direct lived reality of your child's life getting destroyed within days to a week of a vaccine. Or 2, you are highly educated and you've done sufficient research into the background and history of the vaccine and vaccine industry. That is very well described that anti-vax positions, patients who choose not to vaccinate their children, are always highly educated. They're critical thinkers who do deep research. And coming from where I told you I came from, I found out that in my research in COVID, in my advocacy in COVID, I came out, I told the world to use corticosteroids in the hospitalized phase of this disease. I did it months before everyone. I got attacked. My whole university went after me. It became standard of care worldwide. When I said the same thing about ivermectin, my life went completely sideways. Sideways. I've lost 4 jobs. I've been without income at times, but yet apparently I'm a grifter.
Well, you did get $250,000 a year from the the COVID. The IMA, which before that was called the FLCCC, and the FLCCC is the one that had the protocol that said if your pulse ox is below 96, you should go to the hospital. So Pierre Corey is a monster. He's a monster on a script. Even if he just accepted the script that Robert Malone and Kevin McKernan gave him, he's still a monster. He's still a coward, and he still didn't have principles when we needed him to have principles because he's a piece of shit. Excuse my language. But I'm just tired of this guy. I'm tired of Pierre Corey and his emotionality and his whininess because he's on a script. He's got a best-selling book. He got a $250,000 salary for a few years from a nonprofit that should have never existed in the first place. Just like Mary Holland is getting $250,000 a year from a nonprofit that should have never existed in the first place. Just like Brian Hooker is getting $250,000 a year in great insurance from a nonprofit that should have never existed in the first place. And Robert F. Kennedy Jr. got paid $500,000 a year by a nonprofit that should have never existed in the first place. Ladies and gentlemen, we are in trouble if we do not wake up right now. Because these guys are scripted to fail, and we are scripted to go down with them.
And how did I get to this position on vaccines? Because I found that I was living in a world where a lie could be told, and everyone believed it around the world, that ivermectin was ineffective at COVID. And when I saw that happening before my eyes with one of the greatest disinformation campaigns ever perpetrated by pharma, I asked myself, what other lies could they do? And that's how I'm here. Thanks.
And that's how I'm here. So I have no real message. I didn't have a message. I told you more about misinformation and disinformation than I did about the immune system or my objection to augmenting the immune system by the injection of a combination of substances because he's on a shitty script.
All right, Steve, go ahead.
You know, I was hugely pro-vaccine before the COVID shots. And if you asked me, should you get the COVID shot, I was like saying, of course, you'd be insane not to get the COVID shots. So I got my 2, my wife got 4, my kids are all vaccinated.
How many times has he told this story about his house cleaner that had like 3 people die in her family or some bullshit like that? And it's so unlikely. It's statistically ridiculous. How many times has he told this story that we're supposed to listen to this anecdote and then believe that he's right? And now we're supposed to let him analyze whatever data sets he wants to analyze, and he's got to be right. This MIT fraud is as fraudulent as Stephanie Seneff from MIT.
And then I started hearing stories.
Who else is from MIT? Oh yeah, Meryl Nass. She's another fraud from MIT.
And started hearing stories, and some of them were of friends who had their relatives die. I heard one story from a friend who said that, she asked me, are the COVID vaccines safe? And I said, of course they're safe. They're the
I had a friend, I thought this was his house cleaner. What is this bullshit?
Safest thing ever. I'm like repeating what I've been hearing from the CDC. And I said, why are you asking me such a dumb question? And I was a little bit more polite than that. And she said, well, 3 of my relatives were perfectly healthy, and a week after they got the COVID vaccine, they're dead. And I said, that's impossible. The COVID vaccines are perfectly safe. Nobody, you know, it's like 1 in a million chance. So you can't be 1 in a trillion here. I mean, that's statistically unlikely. And she said, yeah, but they're dead. And so that was the trigger that got me to go and start to look at the data. And there were other stories, by the way, for other people who were getting vaccine injured. I've never heard these stories before for any vaccine. So I started looking at the data.
He sounds kind of like a Jessica Rose epigirl. I had never heard this for any other vaccine. And then I looked at VAERS and I found a signal in VAERS that never existed before.
Stop lying!
Wow, this is such shit. But it's scripted shit.
I looked at the VAERS data, I looked at all sorts of papers and so forth. And I ended up writing a 150-page article on questioning whether you should get the COVID shots or not. This published in Trial Site News, got a lot of readers, super popular. And after I
Trial Site News is a joke.
Published that article, people on my scientific advisory board, which I had for finding early treatments for COVID.
Oh, early treatments for COVID, just like Robert Malone, just like Pierre Corey, just like Peter McCullough, almost as if they were all on a script to make sure that they never questioned the existence of the novel virus, just how we responded to it.
Stop lying!
It's just a joke.
I resigned, and they said they never wanted to speak to me again, and I was a bad person. And I said, well, was there something that I said that was wrong in the article? Because if I'm wrong, I just would like to be corrected, because I don't want to be spreading misinformation. And they said, we never want to talk to you again, goodbye. And so people were never willing to tell me why I was wrong. And
that's probably just a lie. I mean, this is just really sad.
The best that I can get is people who, try to tell me, oh, you're wrong, but they don't provide any reason that I'm wrong that's backed by evidence. There's just hand-waving attacks. So it's been a frustrating experience for me, people saying that I'm wrong, but nobody...
Is this really what they prepared to say? Pierre Corey and Steve Kirsch couldn't do better than this? This is even shittier than what he did when he went to MIT and supposedly gave a presentation that was going to stop the planet from spinning.
Be willing to actually show the data that actually confirms that I'm wrong and they're right. So I'm hoping to find someone who can do that someday. But in the meantime, I've been calling for data transparency. And there's no study that was ever done, published in a peer-reviewed journal, saying that if you withhold the data from the public, you're going to get better public health outcomes.
Don't forget that right before the election was over and it was decided, Steve Kirsch was on Stu Peters' podcast and said that in 5 years, RFK was going to give us all safe vaccines. That was his whole thing. He knew, he knows, he's great. This Steve Kirsch, he's a great guy. He's a really good guy. And you know what? He's on your team. If you're on Donald Trump's team, Steve Miller's also on your team, and Alex Jones is on your team, and Kevin McKernan's on your team, and Robert Malone's on your team, and all the people behind RFK, all the fake people like Mary Holland and Meryl Nass and Brian Hooker, they're all on your team. Laura Loomer's on your team. Sasha Latipova's daughter, Soph, is on your team. It is just one giant van full of shitty people. And yet somehow or another we made the excuse to cheer for them. And it's because it was a military operation. That's your excuse. That's how you apologize to your family and friends for having bought into it. They bought into it too. They just bought into the easier side of it. Both sides are bamboozled. It doesn't mean that the blue team is right. It just means that the red team was set up. Listen to me. It doesn't mean the blue team is right. It means the red team was set up. And if we don't pull our heads out, the red team is about to get absolutely destroyed.
The public deserves seeing the public health data. It's always being withheld. It's being withheld from everybody in the United States. It's always been kept secret. RFK Jr. is going to change that. But calling for data transparency, why can't we have the data and let everybody decide from the data? Why does it have to be hidden?
All right. All right. Thank you, Steve, so much. We're going to get to the first question right away here. Let's go. Let's get into it. Dave and Dan, you guys are going to be able to start this one. That means Steve and Pierre are going to get the last word on this question. So the question is, vaccines and autism, is there a link?
So it's funny to me because it's always the same story, right? I was pro-vax and my kids are vaccinated. It's just the COVID vax. But if it was just the COVID vaccine, why are we here talking about the entire vaccine schedule, right? Why are we talking about vaccines and autism? Is there a vaccine in the schedule that you think is good? How is it that we're always fixating on the COVID vaccine and then all of these people here that are supporting you are just magically against all vaccines, right?
That is the perfect question, the perfect contradiction to point out. It is magical. It's absolutely magical because remember, 10 years ago, Mary Holland said that the MMR vaccine gave her son autism. 12 years ago, Brian Hooker said that his son got 5 vaccines on the same day when he had an ear infection, and that got him autism. And go back about 20 years, and Polly Tommy says her son got autism after the MMR shot, but she also gave him Tylenol afterward. So you would think that Pierre Corey and Steve Kirsch would be prepared to answer this and be prepared to speak to this nuance. And the way to speak to this nuance would be, of course, that intramuscular injection of any combination of substances with the intent of augmenting our immune system as we understand it, organized around epithelial barriers, would be absurd. And that's why a lot of vaccines which are applied intramuscularly are probably injuring people. Many of these injuries go undetected because they are smeared across time and space, and they don't necessarily show up in a way that's predictable. And so it is kind of rare, and it is hard to find, and it is hard to track, but the fundamental principles that we understand as far as how our immune system work do not suggest that intramuscular injection is a great way to access it. And so it is a little hard because, again, there have been people who think that it's a specific shot, when in actuality it's probably not a specific shot. It might not even be a specific component. It might just be the exposure to things you're not supposed to be exposed to intramuscularly and the absolutely astronomically unpredictable results that might occur from it. And if these people were capable of saying that, then this guy wouldn't have such an easy time dunking on them.
If you're not anti-vaxxers, how did that happen exactly?
I'll help you out. It's all of them. Keep going.
Huh?
It's all of them. Keep going.
Okay, so he admits it.
Okay. So it's all of them, but it can't be all of them because the measles vaccine and the MMR vaccine is actually applied subcutaneously, so it's different. The oral polio vaccine is probably not causing autism. And so already Pierre Corey has lost because he has been hanging around with Brian Hooker and Mary Holland and Meryl Nass and all these other jackasses who can't get it right. Who've never gotten it right. You know, Sherry Tenpenny, who's been working on vaccines for 25 years and still hasn't figured it out. But God told her to keep working. She heard his voice.
So you are just against all vaccines?
Yeah.
It's your turn. Go ahead.
You listed, Pierre, you listed a lot of accolades in your introduction.
Let's, you guys in the audience, please don't heckle the stage. We need to let the information come out. Let these guys have the conversation.
Okay, Pierre, so you listed a lot of accolades in your introduction, and the common line that a lot of people who think that vaccines cause autism say is that autism has greatly increased in the past few decades. You two would agree with that line of reasoning, right?
That's not the primary line of reasoning, but yes.
But it's necessary, right?
That's one of the things, but that's not the primary
But if
thing.
autism was not increasing over the past few decades, that would...
So why isn't Pierre being precise that if it's vaccines, then it correlates directly with the rise in the vaccine schedule. The more shots, the more autism. So he's allowing Dan to just kind of hand wave about when this occurred instead of being very specific about it, which he could be if he was prepared.
Be interesting to you?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so do you have any knowledge, any mechanism, any scientific reasoning as to why there is a biological reason why autism is increasing as opposed to a diagnostic criteria reason?
Yes, we do.
Okay, let's start.
Lay it on us.
So, should we go now?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay,
It's back and forth. It's back and forth.
All right, let me be clear. So, vaccines have a number of adjuvants. Many of them have been shown to be neurotoxic and producing neuroinflammation.
Which one?
It's in all of the inserts.
Which one?
Anything with mercury, thimerosal, aluminum, known neurotoxic.
There's
Are those in MMR?
So there's no mercury.
Are those in the
childhood
MMR?
vaccines?
Yeah.
So
mercury
there's
was
no
never
mercury
in the vaccines?
There's no mercury currently in childhood vaccines.
But why'd they take it out?
So when they took
2001.
it out, did
Why?
autism
Quite a long
increase?
time ago.
Why'd they take it out?
There it is. They already completely failed. They already completely failed on your behalf, on RFK's behalf, on Jay Bhattacharya's behalf, on Marty McCary's behalf, on Donald Trump's behalf. They just failed. Because rather than having the exorbitantly long list of excipients and preservatives and adjuvants that are in the vaccines, and when they were asked, what do you think does it? They would say, well, any combination of these substances injected intramuscularly could potentially do it, and then start listing them. You know, like Brandy Vaughn did on billboards in 2016, 17, and 18 before she was killed in 2020. Instead, he regurgitates thimerosal. Is he really unaware that that's no longer in any shots? It was only in one flu shot? Is he really unaware of that? Did he really come here on our behalf to represent Robert Malone and team worst case scenario this shittily? With his frickin' no socks and gay shoes on? What in the nine hells is going on here other than a scripted failure and Steve Kirsch is just monitoring it?
Because
of the public fervor.
Yes.
They had never been demonstrated to be harmful at all. They took it out because of public fervor. But the point is 2001. And when they took it out, did autism rates decline or did they go up?
It's not just mercury.
It's not just mercury. Then why in the hell did you mention it first, dumbass? I mean, wow, is this terrible? And his attitude really suggests to me that he is woefully unaware how dumb of a position he's in right now. Woefully unaware that CHD and Brian Hooker and all those people didn't prepare him for this. He's about to get his clock cleaned.
Thimerosal. Check thimerosal off.
I said many of the adjuvants.
You said
so
mercury.
which one?
Polysorbate 80
Which one?
aluminum.
Hang on. So you said
Any of them.
you
They're
said
in the
you
inserts
said
of the
mercury.
vaccines that it cause neurological injuries.
Which one?
He's just
Pierre,
listing one of them.
Pierre, you said mercury.
Yes.
Okay.
And
First of
others.
all,
You
that's
guys wanna
not.
pop
First of
on
all,
mercury?
that's not an adjuvant.
What?
First of all, mercury is not an
It's
adjuvant.
an ingredient then. How's that?
What is it? What does it do?
It's an ingredient in the vaccine.
What does it do?
You tell me.
See how they do it? What does it do? So again, you can memorize things. It's strange that Pierre Corey doesn't know that mercury and thimerosal were in there as a preservative. It's strange that he doesn't know it.
You don't know, do you?
I don't care.
So we are going to.
It's a preservative.
So we
I'm
are
not-
now going to have
I
to
don't care.
educate.
It's
We are now
toxic.
going to have to educate them
Yeah.
on what the ingredient
He doesn't
they
even
think
know what
is
it-
dangerous
it
does.
does.
It's a
Why does he need to use his hands unless he's trying to pretend like he's very smart? Because if you use your hands and it doesn't really say anything, then you're forcing it. And Mr. Dipshit here, Dr. Dan Wilson, will force it all the time because he is an absolute scripted fraud. He looks up to Dave because Dave has been in this little script longer than him.
It's also not elemental
It's a
mercury.
preservative. No, it's a preservative.
It's not elemental mercury. I wonder if we've heard Paul Offit talk about this at all. I think we have. Maybe for 10 years straight. Maybe the same talking points for 10 years straight. No shit.
Let's let Steve get in here. Steve, you want to add something?
No, yeah. It's just that he's just talking about one of the ingredients. It's not just the adjuvants. It's anything
Hang on.
that's in the vaccine that is getting injected.
Yeah, thimerosol's
into
not
you.
an adjuvant again,
so
by the way.
Aluminum, for example, can get into you through injection.
Is that in MMR?
Hang on, we'll get to aluminum, but let's stay on mercury. Did autism...
Is that in MMR? Can you imagine coming to this and not knowing what was in MMR, knowing that, you know, Polly, Tommy, and Andrew Wakefield and all the other people on your team have probably at least mistakenly blamed MMR for everything? But no, they don't know what's in those shots. They don't know what antigens are there, what conjugate proteins are in there. They don't know what preservatives or excipients are in there. They know nothing. That's how prepared they are to defend their position, that they're so serious about it. So serious. So serious is Steve Kirsch. So serious is Pierre Corey. Boy, they're very serious.
Go up after 2001 when it was taken out of the childhood vaccines? Yes.
It's been
So
increasing for
would you
Yes.
expect autism to go down if an ingredient that causes autism got out of vaccines?
The thing
'Cause
that
now they're
causes
being exposed
autism isn't
less.
in there anymore. What do you expect is going to happen?
It doesn't quite work that way because
How does it work?
How do you know?
Do you know what else happened after they took
you're asking-
mercury out of the
you're asking
vaccines?
for-
The number of vaccines continued to explode.
Not really.
And
Oh,
what's
really?
no, not by
really.
that
Whoa.
much.
How many?
But also, what's in them? We're still looking for the ingredient, right? You don't know what they do,
I
but
don't care about the ingredient. You guys, we're talking about the association between vaccines and autism.
Yes.
You guys are asking for mechanisms. I will tell you the associations between vaccines
Yeah.
and autism. You
And
want to do that?
but you mentioned mercury, and I'm asking for a mechanism
wanna
there, and
talk
you're not
about mercury.
able
I'm
to.
talking
You're not
about
able to do
autism.
that. So we can move on.
No.
There's gotta be a compound that does it, right?
I'll give you a mechanism, aluminum.
So we okay.
Are you
Explain
familiar-
how.
Are you familiar with Chris Exley?
Yes.
Okay. So you know he's like the world expert on
He's not.
toxicology.
He's not.
Oh, he's not. Then who is?
There is no single world expert in toxicology.
Okay,
That's,
well, so
you
he's
like
one-
to
one of them.
paint this
So he's one of-
caricature.
he's one
You
of
like
the
to paint
experts
this
in the
caricature
world.
of
He's
science.
He's been doing
There
it
is
for
no one
36
single expert.
years.
So?
How? So who has been doing it for longer than 36 years?
He's been producing slop for 46 years.
Okay. So he's been doing it for 36 years. There's nobody doing more research on that, and he finds kids like a 12-year-old with aluminum.
All right. Yeah.
Concentration
Mm-hmm.
in their brain that is off the charts, never seen before, and the kid is autistic.
Great. So let's start with. I'm assuming you're talking first about the 2017 Exley paper, right?
Yes.
Right, because they sent them papers. They sent each other papers. So here again, did Dan and Dave prepare? Of course they did.
Okay. So did you look at the numbers there, in his table, of aluminum measurements?
No.
You didn't look at
Hang
them?
on. You didn't look at the
They're
numbers?
off the charts, but you didn't look at the numbers.
There's a lot of stuff that I haven't.
Steve, you linked.
It's
the,
your
you
source
sent
that
us
you
the
provided
paper.
for this debate,
Yes,
and you don't know anything about the data in it?
Do you want to? Here, I'll give you some quotes from Chris Exley.
It's okay.
Since you don't know the paper that you brought, we can teach you what's in the paper. The numbers are all fucking over the place.
Yeah.
There's no clear trend. And second of all, there's absolutely no way to mechanistically and causally link that to anything. Even if the data was good, how do you rule out the idea that there's a neurological condition that just makes the brain not clear aluminum as well, right? There's no way to mechanistically link that to a causative agent of autism.
So Chris Exley has published over 200 peer-reviewed papers.
Data.
On aluminum.
Let's get to the data.
He's published over 200 peer-reviewed papers.
Many of which are retracted.
What he says is, I did not see such high aluminum content in the brains of Alzheimer's patient. This was extraordinary. These are some of the highest values ever measured in human brain tissue. Now,
it's not that you can't argue this effectively. It's that Steve Kirsch and Pierre Corey cannot argue this position effectively. That's what you need to see here. They are scripted, and whether Pierre Corey knows it or not, this guy is awful. I mean, awful. His entire performance for the last 5 years has been awful.
go ahead and dispute that. Tell me your source for someone who has higher levels of aluminum than what he's measured.
I'll do you better. So let's go to that table that you didn't read. So let me read off some of the measurements that he got of aluminum in a child's brain. Do you know what a a technical replicate of an experiment is?
Sorry, a
technical replicate.
Is this science class that he's asking us questions?
Apparently, it needs to be because you guys don't even read the studies that you bring.
I'm sorry, Pierre.
I think
Let
this.
me.
Well, I
is it
think this-
nitpicky
let
or are
me
we
just-
proving
let me
that you
just
have no
make a-
fucking idea what you're talking about?
Nothing to do with what we're talking
Let me just make.
It's
Okay,
the
let's
source
recap.
you brought.
Let's hang on. Let's recap for a bit. Pierre brought up mercury.
No, I talked about autism. You are still sticking.
You need a causative agent, and you don't have it.
What are we dealing with here? I just hope it's clear to you that the primary thing we're dealing here with is that all of these people, wittingly or unwittingly, have accepted the fact. They have accepted the fact that since the late 1800s, we have had doctors that were using the same needles and the same syringe on an entire town to cure all kinds of things back when we didn't know enough about anything to know what we could do, because it didn't leave a scar and it didn't cause pain. And so therefore, they thought that this was the best medical tool that had yet been invented. So much so that there was a physician supply company in Pittsburgh already making little boxes like this at the turn of the century that contained a single syringe along with several glass little vials full of dissolvable things that you could then inject with a pair of needles. What I want you to understand is that intramuscular injection and even subcutaneous injection of a combination of substances with the intent of augmenting a human's health has been around for about 120 years, maybe 140 years, and it originates from a time when we did not know better. It originates from a time when we did not know better. We have not been injecting ourselves for centuries. It's about 140 years. And for the first 60 of those years, we didn't know jack about diddly.
Capping here.
You said mercury, you said aluminum.
This is descending into nonsense.
So
it's descending into us showing
we
that you
have,
have no idea what you're talking about.
Here, let's.
You guys, let's recap the time here.
Look, but we do need to finish this real quick because we didn't bring up the point that that it didn't parse the study. There was no data on whether the patients were vaccinated or unvaccinated. The study was shit. You finished that because you read it better than I did.
Sure. So, I mean, first of all, Pierre, I understand you're getting upset, but I think it's reasonable to expect you to know certain things about the topics you claim to know better than the world's leading experts on.
Can I talk about this?
Yeah, let's let Pierre get in. Yeah.
So this request for mechanisms is one of the oldest tricks in the book that's perpetrated by the academics, okay? So this is what they do. When they see associations that they cannot dispel, they do one of a few things. And let's talk about the Institute of Medicine, because you guys actually put that in as a reference. Do you guys know the history of the Institute of Medicine, what it is? So I can ask you these little nitty questions.
Yeah,
so what is the Institute of Medicine?
It's an independent body of experts.
Oh, it is?
Yeah.
Okay. How do they get funded?
Not aware.
What?
Not aware.
You're not aware? Okay.
You're not aware, but
Pierre is not good at this. Steve is not good at this. This script makes them look like children. It's kind of sad.
you rely on their.
All right, so
you rely on what they say.
Let me school you a
You
little
guys
bit.
supplied IOM data. You don't even know how they're funded.
So I care more about the
information that
integrity
you're
of data
relying on
than I
is
do
the
about the
Institute of
funding
Medicine.
sources. But we can get to funding sources if you want.
The Institute of Medicine is a private organization funded by industry and government.
Ah, okay.
They have produced numbers of reports on various toxins plaguing our society, beginning with Agent Orange. Here we are, 40 years later, numbers of reports of Agent Orange. Each time they say insufficient data. Finally, in 2018, they said, you know what, we need studies on veterans, 30 years later, okay? They were investigated by a congressional committee and found...
He's asking for a mechanism and he won't give it to him. Isn't it scary? Because the mechanism is really simple. Intramuscular injection of a combination of substances with the intent of augmenting the immune system, which is organized around epithelial barriers, is really a dumb idea that stretches back to when medicine was really just morphine. How simple would it be to educate these two scripted dipshits about the medicine that isn't medicine? Except this is also a scripted dipshit. Witting or unwitting, Pierre Corey is a traitor to our children. He deserves rotten vegetables thrown at him for the rest of his life. Steve Kirsch deserves rotten vegetables thrown at him for the rest of his life. None of these people should be able to go in public without needing a see-through umbrella to protect them from the vegetable rain.
That they manipulated and misled the public. That's just on Agent Orange. They've gone on over the next few decades to address a number of toxins for which the government would be having to pay out massive compensation claims, including Gulf War syndrome, the anthrax vaccine, where veterans chronically ill, lives destroyed from Gulf War syndrome, they tested for squalene, an ingredient in the anthrax vaccine. 95% of those ill had squalene antibiotics. Anyone healthy had none. Okay, so let me finish. I'm finishing my point here. So you have Gulf War, you have anthrax, you have Agent Orange. Nothing to see here. Asbestos in baby powder, baby food, nothing to see here. Autism, we don't know. We don't have the evidence to say yes or no. There's a pattern. This is an organization that gets hired by industry and government to literally kick the can down the road. And even when they find an association, they do what you guys do. Elaborate the mechanisms. Show me the mechanisms. It's
you
not
know
my
where
job
this
to show you the
conspiracy-
mechanism.
I think-
My job is to show you that they will kill and injure people and make them ill.
Where this conspiracy falls apart is that you're relying on the American government, ignoring the fact that there are hundreds of other countries that also do science. So if you can't provide any studies from other nations that aren't under the tyrannical American government that can produce any kind of data to establish these connections, then what are we even doing here, right?
I'd like to add on this point about mechanisms. When we ask,
oh, don't you hear what he missed? Wouldn't it be great for Pierre Corey or Robert Malone or Meryl Nass or Brian Hooker or any of these other fake dipshits to ever bring up the fact that the vaccine schedules all around Earth are a fraction of the vaccine schedule that's recommended by the CDC? Wouldn't it just be great if you just pointed out that, well, ask these guys, what's the difference between the vaccine schedule in America and the vaccine schedule in the Netherlands? What's the difference between the vaccine schedule in America and the vaccine schedule in Norway? And what's the difference between the prevalence of the diseases in those populations that apparently America vaccinates better for? And have that data ready to go, but no one's ever done it. Sherry Tenpenny in 25 years has never done it. Aaron Siri in 20 years has never done it. In fact, Mary Holland, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., Brian Hooker, all these people with apparently their entire lives and careers on the line have never bothered to do that.
Stop lying!
It's just ridiculous. All these easy home runs, all these easy answers have been missed for 15 years with no progress. And just because they handed that deflated football to the fat man over here, and he's holding it so that the bald man can kick it, it doesn't mean they're playing football.
for mechanisms, we expect an answer. And I don't know is a fine answer, because scientists, we don't expect a mechanism in every single case. There are plenty of things where we know there are known associations, but no known.
I mean, can't you turn it around and say that, you know, Peter Hotez and Professor Dave say that this is a genetic disease with over 100 genes? Well, aren't genes subject to development? Aren't gene expression patterns dictated by development? And isn't development a complex interaction between genes and the environment? So then how can you rule out the possibility that it's not just genes, but it's actually exposure to things, and that exposure to things, the worst kind, might be injection? You know, like a rattlesnake bite or an insect bite or a freaking intramuscular injection of, a couple milliliters of shit. But they can't do it. They have no ability to argue because he spent more time on misinformation and disinformation, more time on, where I studied and what I know and how many languages my textbooks are in, instead of preparing something intelligent to say that would beat the standard bullshit narrative that also hasn't changed in 15 years, that might as well be Paul Offit over here. But again, you got to hand the football over to younger people. Otherwise, it really will just be the same people arguing the same points.
Nailed down mechanism. So to be mad that we're asking for a mechanism is a little weird. But if we want to get back to Illuminati...
Autism spectrum disorder, according to Peter Hotez, is a spectrum because it is the consequence of a combination of over 100 developmental genes. So how in the Sam hell, if we accept any of that bullshit, are we supposed to come up with a frickin' mechanism? But because this guy is scripted to be a cunt, and scripted to say this shit and act like he knows, and because he's talking to people who are scripted not to know, wittingly or unwittingly, it looks like he's winning. But it's complete bullshit.
Which is the topic that you guys wanted to talk about. We can do that.
Well, no. You guys wanted to talk about it because you asked for a mechanism. I want to talk about the Verstraeten study.
You get a vaccine.
I want to talk about the William Thompson
child,
study.
And then the child falls into dense, life-altering, nonverbal autism for the rest of their life, either beginning that day or the next day.
That's not a mechanism.
Which has happened
That's
zero
not a
times.
mechanism.
So can we talk
You're
about
relying
that?
on bullshit anecdotal evidence.
Can we
you have
talk-
no studies to support that whatsoever.
And this guy is really into it because he has a son with autism. He's going to get mad about it at some point, and that's why he's so invested. That's why he's so angry. Because he really doesn't like it if it's vaccines and it could have been avoided for his son. It's definitely not vaccines. He probably even has a story under his hat that it actually was about a week after some vaccines or some shit like that. This man is scum. And the reason why he's scum is because he's actually coordinating his work on the internet with the Weinsteins and making a lot of money and views going against the Weinsteins, who are also very much a part of this script, which comes from their dad and Peter Thiel and Elon Musk and all of these other, scripted actors that are being basically scripted to do what they're doing by the national security state. Elon Musk is not getting all these DoD contracts because he's so smart. That's impossible. Otherwise, there would be at least one video of him saying something profound. The same goes for Peter Thiel. He's just an overrated gay man who plays chess very well. He's not smart, and there is no video footage of him saying anything profound. Actually, Alex Karp is on video saying a few things quite profound that amount to admissions, but think about Jeff Bezos and how little he's on camera at all, probably because he never says anything profound. These are scripts. These are scripted actors. We have been fooled.
Can we talk about the Verstraeten study?
The what?
The Verstraeten study. This is the VSD study. It's done in 1999 by CDC epidemiologist Thomas Verstraeten. You know what he found? 11 risk ratio for thimerosal and autism. So what did they do? They had a secret meeting.
So again, we're talking about autism and thimerosal, even though there's no more thimerosal in the schedule since 2001. Does Steve really think that this is a winning argument, or is he following a shitty script designed to fail? Don't forget, this is a anti-RFK tour. The posters say anti-RFK tour with special guest Pierre Corey and Steve Kirsch, because these other two characters have been on an anti-JFK tour or RFK tour all around the United States. So why would Pierre Corey and Steve Kirsch go on a anti-RFK tour and be on stage and allow themselves to be buffoonerized with no prep and no notes and no forethought. Unless it was part of the script. Unless it's part of the demoralization. Because the longer you root for RFK and this fake movement, the more likely it is that you're going to be dropped on your face. This should be the first taste of it for some people. But a lot more is coming. And if you don't turn and face the right direction right now and start telling people that they blew it too and explaining how they blew it too, explaining why it worked on you one way, but it worked on them the other way, and they think that Donald Trump and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. are acting very uncontrollably and they're out of our control, and that is falling for it as well because they are national security scripted actors. They just do and say what they're told and improvise on that script, and they're very good at it. That's why they're there. Because they've been there for like 10 years now.
Simpsonwood?
At Simpsonwood, right, to talk about how do we massage this? How do we tell the public? And there were some quotes. It's a huge transcript, but out of that transcript, there are some choice quotes. Things like, wow, linear relationship, dose-response relationship. You increase the dose, the association in...
He's still talking about thimerosal. Keep that in mind. It might as well be, shooting an automatic rifle with the trigger pulled and held into his foot and digging a hole. Like, it's ridiculous.
Increases. People were aware of that, and they talked about, oh shit, we're going to be in huge legal trouble.
Yeah.
How are we going to message this to the public?
It's a cute story, but again, thimerosal was taken out of the MMR vaccine in 2001.
Wait a minute,
Did autism go down?
But wait a second. He found the association.
So
you
did
guys asked
so
for
do,
how do you get an 11-to-1 risk?
How is it possible that Steve Kirsch is so stupid to be hammering on this unless it's scripted? How is it possible? How has he not mentioned Brian Hooker's Vax Unvax book yet? How has he not mentioned, the autism case of Hazelhurst? And how has he not talked? I mean, there are so many different ways that this could have gone and so many different ways that they could have at least addressed things in the right way. But of course, now you can see plainly that this whole health freedom movement, this whole anti-vax movement was always fake. That's why Brandy Vaughn is dead, and her slides about ingestion versus ingestion never made it past her death. Brian Hooker didn't pick up that and start teaching it. Mary Holland never says that on any program that she's ever on because she's scripted. She's part of a national security operation full of actors that were put in place before the pandemic and are in place now. And America is under their spell, and a lot of other skilled social media users around the world are under their spell. And it's part of the controlled demolition of America. They have to demolish the American culture by making us ashamed of who we are. And this fraud is part of it.
Ratio on something where there's no cause and effect.
So what exactly
why
was?
Did they have that offsite meeting to talk about it? Why did they need to do that if it's just a coincidence?
Again, very cute stories, but we're looking for data.
Yeah, so
that is data.
So
no, you're spinning a conspiratorial narrative.
Steve, slow down.
All right, let Dan respond to the bullshit that you said.
Yes.
You know what the risk ratio is for if you smoke a pack a day and lung cancer? Do you know what the risk ratio of that is? It's a well-known association. Risk ratio is 10-to-1. This was 11-to-1.
So what kind of confounders did they control for in that experiment that you're talking about?
Why are you trying to scrutinize the bullshit?
That's a very important
research
point.
that we try
so
to use.
Do you know?
What kind of confounder? What kind of confounder, Dan, causes?
See, it really feels like Pierre is not aware that there is a script here. That it's possible that Pierre doesn't really get it. It's possible that Pierre doesn't really get it. But they are scripted to lose. And that kind of, what are they? What are the confounders that they test for in that paper? It's kind of a funny question. It's a legitimate one. It's a nitpicky one, but it's funny because, again, their reaction is what makes them lose.
An 11-to-1 odds ratio.
So if I were to,
what's the confounder on that one?
Steve, do you know what ascertainment bias is?
Yes, I do.
So if I were to survey a room full of crotchety old men on, let's say, whether or not they have type 2 diabetes, and then survey a room full of soccer players on the same question,
yeah,
you think that there would be a huge risk ratio difference there?
Of course. But what they did is they used...
Why?
They used over 100,000 people in the VSD database. They were trying to find out. The whole mission for Stratton was to go and get the data to do the study to discredit this whole association. Now, Verstraeten is very skilled in the art of manipulating numbers in order to make the signal go away.
He's still talking about the thimerosal paper. It's really so stupid.
And so he went through 5 rounds. It took him 4 years, Dan, to make the signal go away. And he has there's a famous email he sent off saying, "I can't make the signal go away."
Yeah,
the title, the subject line was,
story.
"It won't go away."
It's a cute story, yeah, I know.
Okay.
See how everything relies on anecdotal evidence for you? Why isn't there a study from some other country that you can point to that's not under the tyrannical American government that reproduces what you're talking
Dave and
about?
Dan,
it turns
you guys,
out...
2 seconds. Dave and Dan, you guys have your final thoughts on this particular topic, and then
there is one very important
Steve and
point.
Pierre get the last word on this topic.
Okay, there's one very important point that we didn't bring up, and that's diagnostic criteria. And I would ask you guys, do you have any idea how autism is diagnosed and how that has changed in the past 30 to 40 years?
Yes, and it's changed quite significantly.
Yeah, how so? Like, how?
Because they want to make the signal go away, so they
No. How?
They want to make the signal go away, so they broadened it. Maybe you could be more specific and better and just say that it's a signal of neurotoxicity, and they're calling it and misconstruing it as a genetic environmental disorder when it is just acute toxicity. And acute toxicity and acute neurological damage, acute neurological poisoning is acute neurological poisoning. It's not autism. They could have started there, but they didn't. And it's by design. It's by script. That's the actual script that Mary Holland and Brian Hooker and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. are in charge of and in place for reinforcing. The whole damn organization of CHD is not able to make any progress, even if you sit in a Zoom meeting and tell them the progress they could be making. You offer to teach an immunology class. You offer to do these things. They don't want it. They've already got their message. They're not trying to do that. They were building a big top tent of health freedom that's also about the chemtrails and is also about 5G and electromagnetic radiation. Don't you see?
Does a professional in the field diagnose autism, and how has that changed? It's not about whatever data you're trying to talk about.
This is not the topic.
When was autism spectrum disorder added to the DSM? When was autism spectrum disorder added to the DSM?
There are various levels of the DSM. It changed over time.
When was autism spectrum disorder added to the DSM?
What, DSM-1?
Pierre, do you know you were in the medical field? Do you know? Do you know you were in the medical field?
1994. 1994.
Okay,
so how do you imagine that impacted?
Into the mic there, Pierre.
Make
Just
the argument, and then I'll be able to respond.
It's-
Instead, you're asking me a little.
Why not? Wouldn't it be great if they were able to say that the impetus for testing kids at birth or right after birth and genetically screening them started right after the Genome Project was announced, and they kind of encouraged it to start then? Again, this is all like, there's all kinds of opportunities here, but because they're on the shitty script that Mary Holland and Brian Hooker and Merrill Nass and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Del Bigtree and Polly Tommy and Andrew Wakefield are on, they have no hope of arguing back against these guys. It's designed that way.
questions. I'm not going to do this. This is just silly.
You're not gonna talk about one of the most important aspects of
You're
this.
not making an argument. You're asking me random.
It's not a random question. You're saying autism rises correlating with vaccines, and I'm telling you that it's just diagnoses. Because prior to these diagnostic criteria, level 1 and 2 autistic children were not getting diagnosed, and now they are. Do you know how I know this? Because I have an autistic son.
See, you know how I know this? Because I have an autistic son who I guess wouldn't have been autistic before these diagnostics were changed. But now I'm lucky enough to have an autistic son that's disabled that I can point to and use as a trump card. You know how I know? Because I have an autistic son. So now you understand why this guy's such a dickhead and why he was so gung-ho about doing what he's done for the last 12 years. It's not his love of science. He's using a gift of memory to help the system get back at these people that he thinks genuinely are charlatans, and that's probably right. They are. But not in the way that he thinks. It's because they got on the train of Mary Holland and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and Brian Hooker, all these frauds, and adopted their thinking and adopted their arguments, and then now are only finding out that they are losing arguments by design.
Okay, so I know about how this is diagnosed. Okay?
And I'll complete these thoughts. Pierre wants us to just tell.
But his son is autistic, even though autism is a complex interaction between 100-some genes and the environment. His son is autistic, and therefore he knows exactly how the diagnosis of current. So it's just so stupid. It's just so stupid.
Tell him the facts instead of quiz him on what he should know.
Steamroll
so
everything.
Let me explain. So we know that autism is genetic. 70 to 80% of autism cases are genetic.
A mountain of data versus bullshit.
So there are several genome-wide association studies showing that autism is genetic. There are several twin and familial studies showing that genetics is an extremely strong component. Also, there is data looking at rates. There is data looking at rates of non-profound autism versus profound autism in the past 16 years. It has been shown convincingly that the lion's share of the increase in autism that RFK says is an epidemic is due to non-profound autism cases that are being caught by the expanded diagnostic criteria.
Which were not diagnosed in the past.
Doctors are not looking at kids for 10 seconds and looking for an autism diagnosis because they're flapping their hands or being nonverbal. It's expanded. It's much more broad than that.
Which makes the argument that vaccine injury is getting lost in that sea of nonsense, that sea of aspecificity, that sea that lacks fidelity of understanding or even classification. And yet, neither Pierre Corey, nor Steve Kirsch, nor Mary Holland, or Meryl Nass, or Robert Malone, or Robert F. Kennedy Jr. are able to say it, even after a decade or more of trying to learn it. It's scripted failure. Or catastrophic failure. I mean, it could be that, too. Mary Holland could just be a catastrophic failure. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. could be a catastrophic fraud. It's possible, but then I don't think they would have gotten as far as they've gotten. Being surrounded by all the people they're surrounded by and believed by supposedly all the people they're believed by. That is only explainable by a very elaborate theater and a well-honed script.
People can be functional and autistic. That was not recognized 20 years ago.
Okay, final thoughts on the topic by Pierre and Steve.
All right, let me say three things about this. Kennedy, RFK Jr. talks very often about this. You know, when he was growing up, never saw an autistic kid. Today, he still can't find an autistic person of his age.
That's because the autistic people that you would be talking about that are damaged like that are dead. They don't live to be 70 or 80. I'm not sure that we can expect Paula Aitken's child, for example, to live to be 70 or 80, bless his heart, because they're sick kids. And so this is just kind of silly, right? It's just kind of silly to talk like this, that there are no autistic kids the age of RFK. There are no old people with as many muscles as RFK either. He doesn't know anybody else his age that has his musculature, but you know, that's okay, I guess. I mean, this is just stupid. This is just stupid for so many different reasons. Also because again, it just belies a lack of understanding that these people are just scripted and acting.
So it's not the diagnostic criteria that has changed. So that's
definitely
the
knows autistic people his age.
The second thing is there has never been a before and after study looking at the timing for...
Did you hear what he said, by the way? Did you hear that? That's funny. Is it really only that far in? No way. Oh, wow, that's crazy.
Rapid onset autism. About 25% of the cases of autism. Never saw an autistic kid. Today, he still can't find an autistic person of his age. So it's not the diagnostic criteria that has changed. So that's
definitely knows autistic people his age.
He definitely knows autistic people his age. So they're actually having an argument about whether or not autism is present in Bobby Kennedy's age group, even though they don't themselves agree on the definition of autism. One guy thinks that autism can be a verbal and normal person with a lack of eye contact, or maybe ADHD or some other bullshit, whatever his son has. And that's autism, just like other people's autism. It's all the same. Blah, 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 blah. And both sides are just as stupid as the other. It's just a mirror image of them. It's remarkable to me. I actually thought Dave would do better, but Dave is really obviously a scripted buffoon. And his links to the Weinsteins now really make complete sense if I listen to his lack of nuance here, lack of insight. This is really a high school senior level argument at best, and these guys are losing to a high school senior in biology. It's kind of sad.
The second thing is there has never been a before and after study looking at the timing for rapid onset autism. About 25% of the cases of autism, plus or minus, happen very rapidly within a week. Did you know that every single case that we can find, at least 80% of those cases happen within
20%, 80%. You know, this is all bullshit. He's not doing anyone any favors. He's hurting everybody whose side he's on. It's like when Laura Loomer opens her mouth and discredits everybody that follows her. When Alex Jones opens his mouth and everybody that follows him is discredited. That's the same thing that's happening here right now, and it's by design. We've got to call these people the criminals and the frauds that they are, because they are part of the same fraud that the other side didn't see through. They are part of the same fraud that drove all of our family and friends to believe in the virus, to believe in the panic. These people were in on it too. Two sides of the same coin. It's just that right now, the red team has been set up to fail. See it for what it is and get out while you can.
A week after a vaccine, 20% happen a week before the vaccine. So if it's not related to the vaccine, then why are 80% of those cases happening after a vaccine rather than right the week before? Nobody's been able to explain that. Nobody in the world has ever done that study, and they never will, because they don't want to know the truth. And that's the most important thing that you should know about this. And the third thing is that when William Thompson, who led the CDC study, on autism and linking it with vaccines, and they found a link. You know what happened? His bosses told him, destroy that.
That's the story that Brian Hooker was given. That's the story that Brian Hooker was going to be the whistleblower on. That's the story that Brian Hooker has been the whistleblower in the past. And this looks like a substitution of Steve Kirsch for him. And it's a terrible failure, and I called it 2 years ago. Now they're going to bring this up as if this is further evidence of covering up the evidence. Ladies and gentlemen, the trap is closing. Get out while you can. Steve Kirsch is a fraud. Pierre Corey is a fraud. Robert Malone is a fraud. RFK is a fraud. Jay Bhattacharya is a fraud. Jessica Rose was a fraud. They are all scripted frauds. Traitors
Data.
to our grandchildren.
So it will never see the light of day, and let's publish the paper as if we had never seen that link.
Stories and lies,
corrupt,
data.
This is how corrupt the CDC has been. Thompson was called to testify in front of Congress. He was subpoenaed to answer questions.
Imagine if they were to have started right here with autism spectrum disorder being an elaborate myth used to make sure that intramuscular injection is never questioned as a methodology, that virology is never questioned as a science, and that public health is never questioned as a reason, and that we think that pandemics and gain-of-function viruses are also myths used to accomplish the exact same bullshit. And so, yes, we are against vaccines, but if specifically we're against the intramuscular injection of a combination of substances to augment the immune system, because the immune system is much more than antibodies. Recognize that the modern biology assumes the central dogma rather than testing it, while it has never been proven beyond its most basic formulation. Identify new foundations of molecular and systemic complexity upon which to base models of understanding. And here's a good start. We need to reimagine the immune system as a molecular and cellular interface with our own microbiome. We also need to imagine that mitochondria are part of that microbiome, because they probably are, at least insofar as regulation and cellular communication by phage, etc. And reimagine the development as an opportunity for optimization and maximization of inherited potential, rather than inherited potential being already predetermined and just a reading of a tape, which it certainly is not. We are a pattern integrity with a trajectory across time, and that's how we get out of this bad biology. And we also must recognize
for many of us, it's shocking. You cannot conceive of a world in which there are no ethical boundaries. You can't conceive of warfare in which there's no guardrails. There's no consent.
I can't listen to Malone anymore. Look, they knew that this was coming. It was a very complex background that Nathan Wolfe had been grifting on for a long time, that Peter Daszak was out there designed to make it seem like we knew what was back there. And in the meantime, this biological signal was on its way. A biological signal that you can actually see it. You can see it right there. See it rising. Ooh, look at it coming. They saw it coming. They saw it coming around the world. And once these people retired and stopped paying taxes, well, I mean, how are we going to manage all those people? How are we going to manage this population pyramid, which was the same all around the Western world? Well, we managed it with a bunch of sculpting, manslaughter, and lies. That anticipated rise in all-cause mortality is invisible even in the CDC data. And we've got a whole list of ways that they sculpted it. Supplementary oxygen being number one, and probably the primary reason why Pierre Corey, the textbook writer on emergency medicine or critical care medicine, was recruited, because he would be present to bullshit about 60 liters of pure oxygen a minute being something that could be used. Anybody that's risen into clear view is an actor in this theater. This theater is about a 15-year, an orchestrated 15 years, 10 years of extreme full court press, and then 5 years of insanity. It's a two-party theater, ladies and gentlemen. If you accept that, then you can also see how social media has been militarized using podcast actors. And they just go from podcast to podcast talking shit and saying the narrative and asking the dumb questions about pandemics and public health and climate change and religion and morality and parental rights and responsibilities and relevant threats to our democracy and what it means to be liberal or conservative. That's Robert Malone. That's Sasha Latipova and her daughter Soph. That's Alex Jones. That's Brett Weinstein. That's all these people. The list is endless, all the way to Candace Owens. I mean, it's Charlie Kirk. It's all of them. And so if they rose into Clearview, then they rose into Clearview by permission, by design. They are need-to-know basis scripted actors. Trump's shooting was fake. I don't think there's any reason why Steve Kerr, or sorry, what was his name? Charlie Kirk's shooting couldn't also have been faked, but I just don't care because they're all actors. And if necessary, they'd take an actor off stage with a bullet, no problem. But they'd also fake a shooting like they did with Donald Trump an hour north of here and blame it on a high school kid that supposedly went to the same high school as my kid, which is just bullshit. Ladies and gentlemen, endemicity is one of those things. It's also a myth, both as a process and an endpoint. You know, they just used a background and confused us about it. I don't know. I'm getting tired of saying it, but it's true. Get yourself and your children off social media now because this is for all the marbles. This is for the children of Earth. These are hamster wheels. Don't believe them. Just try to get out of them. Hoo-ha, I'm tired. I wish I was going to the beach. Wow, that's kind of nice. I guess you're on the West Coast. Get out of the hamster wheels, ladies and gentlemen. Get your family and friends out of the hamster wheels by throwing down a ladder. Hopefully I still can catch the famdamily awake on Friday night. Your children are trapped. You're trapped. But we can get out. We can. I'm going to get to bed. Thanks for using PeerTube. It's working really well. Thanks for being there. I'll change the thumbnail as quick as I can once it gets rendered. Thanks for being here. I'll try to get on the weekend, but I can't promise anything. We have basketball tryouts on Monday again. And if there's nice weather, there's stuff to do in the backyard. I don't know for sure, but I'm going to try and get this the pace and the consistency up a little bit and make it easier for V to give you a notification that means something. So thanks very much for being here. Thanks for your patience. It's been a great week, and hopefully next week will be a better one. Thanks for being here.